As a young boy, although I had some friends, I was always quite lonely inside. Arriving in the UK at the age of 8, I looked different from English boys and spoke differently as I didn't have a Brummie accent. I'd never thought of myself as different until other kids pointed out to me that I was a different colour to them. As far as I was concerned, I was just brown because my parents came from Malta. I was no darker than someone with a good suntan, but in the 70s, I stood out and it caused me a lot of challenges. I can remember being at a primary school in Hay Mills, Birmingham, and taking my shoes off in the playground to prove to the other children that the bottom of my feet were white like theirs. Other lads wanted to fight me because I was different, and I can remember the worry I felt throughout the school day because a kid called Carl was going to fight me after school. All of the other kids were spreading the word so that there would be an audience. I felt so alone and just wanted to return to that little island called Malta, where I was loved and accepted. As I endured trying to fit into my first school in England, St Bernadette's, things didn't get easier. One day I arrived at the school gates to be met by 3 lads. The ringleader was called Jerry. He was an Irish lad with a large nose. When he was taunting me, I could remember looking at it thinking how big and red it looked. He approached me and said, "Your mum is a fat pig." I instinctively punched him on that big fat red nose of his, and it started to bleed profusely. I was pumped with adrenaline and incensed that he had been so rude about my mum, whom I loved very much. To slander someone's mother is massively disrespectful, and it had to be addressed. A teacher was soon alerted to the incident, and I was marched into the head teacher's office with the other boys. We were all lined up, and I sensed something bad was going to happen. And I was right. The head teacher reached for his cane and flexed it between his hands, bending it to a place where I thought it would snap. He'd done this before, and the cane was his weapon of choice. I'd heard that on occasion he preferred to use the slipper, but this situation seemed to warrant a heavier weapon. He walked to the end of the line where Jerry was standing and said, "Were you involved?" To which Jerry replied with his bloody nose, "Yes, sir." Whack! Then a burbling, murmuring noise escaped from Jerry's mouth. The head teacher continued down the line of boys, caning each one of them. A burbling noise turned into blubbering and sniffing as the culprits tried to control their reactions to the pain and humiliation. Finally, he came to me, flexing his cane as he did with all the others. He said, "Were you involved?" I replied, "What would you do, sir, if somebody called your mum a fat pig?" He paused and looked down at me intently. This could go on one of 2 ways: an extra whack for being cheeky, or an extra whack and sent home. He must have been able to see the frustration in my eyes as this incident finally tripped me over the edge, resorting to violence that had brought me to this point. All the other boys were dismissed, and I was alone with the head teacher. I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. He closed the door behind the exiting boys and took a deep sigh as he looked at me. He walked towards me and then stopped, and he stooped down so we were eye to eye. His face was kind and he softened. Then he said to me, "Kevin, you can't go around punching people on the nose. I know you're upset and that you love your mum very much, but this must not happen ever again."